throughout the day today. Now, Aaron, again, in the next segment, we're going to talk more about the Cybertruck incident
Right.
that exploded outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas.
Yeah, because we've had two, right? We've had the
Yes,
attack in New Orleans, and then we've also had this Cybertruck explosion in Vegas.
that's exactly right. And we, as of now, and of course, to be clear, it is still very early and more information is coming out. But as of right now, there does not appear to be any connection between the attack in New Orleans and the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas. However, a lot of coincidences, Aaron, a lot
Hmm.
of similarities. We know, of course, that the driver of the truck in New Orleans was an Army veteran, a U.S. citizen from Texas. The driver of the Cybertruck in Las Vegas was a current member of the military, a current Green Beret in the
Yeah,
U.S. Army
on leave from Germany.
on leave. We also know that both at some point had been stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the Army
Hmm.
base there. There is no evidence that they had actually been there at the same time or had served in the same unit. But again, coincidence after coincidence. Both were electric vehicles,
Right.
the Ford F-150 Lightning, and then of course the Cybertruck,
Both rented from Turo.
both rented from Turo. So, Aaron,
Yeah.
what do you make? It's difficult to. Again, we want to be disciplined here. We want to be clear that it is very early. There is no evidence of any connection between these two attacks, but with so many similarities and so many coincidences, what is your reaction to that? What is fair? What is going through your mind or has been going through your mind if you've seen some of these reactions, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we definitely, like you said, it's still very early, and the police and the FBI in both of these locations have been very clear that they are still looking into this. They're still looking for information, and so nothing definitive really has been said yet, other than that we know who the individuals were that were involved in both of these. But I think that it presents some serious questions. We've got some really big events coming up over the next month here. We've got the Sugar Bowl today.
Yeah,
That's
which
still
was
happening.
rescheduled
From yesterday, but it's still happening.
Yep.
And then we've got a bunch of other things going on around the country. Maybe the biggest one being the inauguration later this month. I think there are some real questions about what do we do going forward with this, and how do we handle this going forward? So,
Yeah. We know that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security had issued, weeks ago, a warning about potential lone wolf attacks.
right.
And that was, my understanding is that immediately followed the attack, the vehicular attack in Germany at a Christmas market. We know that a terrorist in Germany had driven a truck into a Christmas market there, killing and injuring many. And following that attack in Germany, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security issued a warning about something similar happening here in the United States, these lone wolf attacks. And in a way, Aaron, this is exactly what we saw happen yesterday, New Year's Day, in New Orleans and in Las Vegas. We saw two, at least as of we know right now, they were not connected, they were not coordinated.
Right.
Right.
And both of them, it looks like, are lone wolf operators.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what the U.S. Department of Homeland Security warned us about.
Right.
So in a way, I think that gives me some confidence and some sense of, okay, we saw things like this coming. They happened, but fortunately, the casualties in Las Vegas were limited to injuries. Obviously, New Orleans is tragic. 15 people we know are dead.
Including the suspect.
That's exactly right. Many others injured. But this, your point about how does this impact our awareness, right? When we're out and about, especially in places like Bourbon Street in New Orleans or in Las Vegas on New Year's, when we're at maybe a major sporting event, how should this impact how we behave, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the see something, say something campaign, right? And I think a lot of us I think we all are kind of aware of that. But one of the things that struck me about particularly the New Orleans incident is that the suspect was placing explosives before he drove into Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
And so people saw coolers just sort of sitting there on the street that were not attended by anyone, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so I think there's an interesting question there as to what should your responsibility be if you're out in a big public venue like this on a night like New Year's Eve. You know there are big events going on.
Yeah,
what
that's
does
exactly
it mean to
right.
be aware of your surroundings and
Be
to be
aware,
willing to step up and say something?
see something, say something. I think that perhaps we have, become a little bit complacent. It has been a really positive thing that we have not experienced larger episodes of terrorist attacks like this in our country for a while.
Right.
Of course, we've had horrific, tragic school shootings and other events where there have been mass casualties or fatalities. But when it comes to targeted acts of terrorism, Aaron, we have been relatively secure for a while, and I think we have become complacent. I want to highlight some new information we heard from the FBI about the terroristic nature of this attack. We heard earlier today from Deputy Assistant Director Christopher Rea with the FBI Counterterrorism Division, who said that the New Orleans attack was indeed an act of terrorism. Let's listen to that.
This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act.
Okay. No doubt about it, Aaron. This was an act of terrorism.
Well, they found, what did they find, Taylor? They found an ISIS flag.
Yes.
Right? And even President Biden has said that it is clear that the suspect was influenced by ISIS.
Yes, radicalized, influenced by ISIS. Now, initially, the initial reaction on social media, and this is why, listeners, Aaron, I know, when it comes to social media and these kind of events, there is an initial reaction phase on social media that I think we all need to take a breath from. Initially, we saw the blame going everywhere, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so to be clear, the perpetrator, the suspect in this attack in New Orleans was an American citizen, born and raised in Texas, a Army veteran. Why is that significant, do you think?
Well, I mean, to your point about social media, there has been a lot. What's interesting is that this has sort of bled over into a discussion about immigration and about people who are here in the country, perhaps illegally. We're going to talk in the next segment a little bit probably about how this may affect some of Trump's nominees.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's easy to jump to that conclusion, particularly when you're dealing with something like an influence of ISIS, even though this was an American citizen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listeners, stay right here with us on KSL Inside Sources. Coming up after the break, we are going to continue the conversation about the terrorist attacks in New Orleans, the attack in Las Vegas. We're going to talk about some of the coincidences there, even though we don't have any direct connection. There are a lot of similarities. We're going to continue talking about those right here on KSL Inside Sources after the break.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Imagine a currency that has true value, a currency that's local, protects your wealth, and resists inflation. Now imagine that currency is anchored to the stability of gold. Introducing Goldbacks, a currency made of 24-karat gold, accepted at over 800 businesses in Utah. Don't just imagine it. Visit alpinegold.com to start spending in gold. Use promo code RADIO to get free shipping on orders of over $200 or more.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
No two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be in the room with real people kind of learner, so he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. Vos está pronto.
Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at babbel.com. BABBEL.com.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
How does a soccer club, born in an unlikely place,
Utah? You sure you want to do that in Utah?
built with players no one else wanted,
We knew no one believed in us.
reach the league's highest heights?
We finally did it. It was like just this feeling of getting to the top of the mountain.
Russell has made a champion out of Real Salt Lake.
How does that same team find a way to shatter expectations in the midst of a fight for its own survival?
Our club is burning to the ground as we speak.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and in a new podcast, Making of a Moment, the RSL story, we take a closer look at one of those iconic sports moments.
Soccer is a crazy game, and we saw it firsthand tonight.
And unravel how knowing the truth of these moments can transform what they mean.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now. Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, federal investigators are now saying the suspect in the New Orleans truck attack was acting alone. Second, Wayne Osmond's family says he died peacefully at home surrounded by his family. He was 73. Third, avalanche danger in Utah still high heading into the new year. 48 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
All right, this is Erin Ryder here with Taylor Morgan today. We are continuing our coverage of 2 attacks on New Year's Day. Taylor, anything else you want to say about New Orleans before we kind of focus on Vegas here for a minute?
Well, I think it's important to note that it is officially a terrorist attack. We know we're learning more and more about the suspect, the driver of that Ford F-150 Lightning that drove down Bourbon Street at 3 a.m. yesterday, killing 15 individuals, sending many others to the hospital with serious injuries. He had posted some content to social media in the hours before the attack. It had become clear that he had been radicalized, essentially, and was, it was officially in the FBI. We listened to this audio in the last segment, Aaron. The FBI has officially declared it an act of terrorism. Right? No question about that now.
Yeah. So, stay tuned. We'll continue to keep you updated as things progress. But let's shift to Vegas for a second here. We've talked about this a little bit. But, again, I think it's important to mention that there is no firm connection at this point between what happened in New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas. And so, a lot of coincidences, a lot of interesting overlap between the two incidents, but no official connection as of this time.
Yeah.
So with Vegas, we do have a statement here from the FBI Special Agent in Charge, Spencer Evans, talking about a potential motive for the incident.
It's not lost on us that it's in front of, of the Trump building, that it's a Tesla vehicle, but we don't have information at this point that definitively tells us or suggests it was because of this particular ideology or any of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think, Taylor?
Well, I think that knowing that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security had issued a warning about potential lone wolf attacks, this is exactly what we are seeing, right? The New Orleans attack was a terrorist attack done in a lone wolf fashion, right? The Cybertruck incident in Las Vegas appears to be another lone wolf attack. I think that this is exactly what the U.S. Department of Homeland Security warned about. This is exactly the kind of thing we want to be on guard, watching out for. This is exactly what we saw happen at that Christmas market in Germany last month, Aaron. So unfortunately, this appears to be the new set of tactics for terrorism in the United States of America. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not tragic. It certainly is. 15 people we know lost their life in New Orleans. Many other have been injured. Of course, we know that there were serious injuries in Las Vegas. The driver, the suspect of the driver of the Cybertruck, the renter, the suspect there who was currently in the United States Army serving as a Green Beret. We know that he is dead. He committed suicide. Officials confirmed that they did find a handgun at the driver's feet, that there appeared to be a gunshot wound to the head. So it does appear as if the suspect in the Las Vegas attack had committed suicide before the truck started exploding. So two incidents of lone wolf attacks. Now, Aaron, taking a step back from this, if you're a terrorist and you're going to plan an attack in a lone wolf fashion, these targets, right? The Trump Hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve, okay? And then Bourbon Street in New Orleans on New Year's Eve. These are two very clear targets.
Right.
And so, in a way, I think this informs how we should be on guard and how we should be prepared for these kind of attacks. We need, I think as Americans, and I mentioned this last segment, I think we have been lulled into a sense of complacency. And it is a good thing that we have been relatively safe and secure in this country since the attacks of 9/11, September 11th, 2001. There have been other attacks. There have been other incidents, of course, right? But we have generally been secure and safe, Aaron, in this country for a long time. I complain a lot about TSA at airports, and I'm rethinking that criticism now. And I understand that there is always a debate, and a healthy debate in this country, between constitutional rights and safety and security, right? And that debate will continue. But I do think that as Americans, we have been feeling safe and secure, and we perhaps have become a little bit complacent. You mentioned, Aaron, before we started recording, we had a conversation, and you brought up a great point that you alluded to last segment about how there were IEDs, these improvised explosive devices, planted by the attacker in New Orleans. We know that some were planted at a cathedral there in the French Quarter. They were in coolers, and people saw these and didn't say anything. Do you want to make your point again? What do you think?
Yeah.
Why is that significant?
I think the point is, not, and I want to be clear here too, that we're not trying to place blame in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But, to your point about complacency, I think it's easy to, what is it? The bystander effect, right? Oftentimes when there is an incident of some sort, people will often just sort of move on and not engage. And this happens with accidents on the side of the road. It happens with any sort of thing like that. This is one where going forward, it's just watching all of this has made me think, what is our role as visitors, participants at these big public events in regard to see something, say something, right? And if you see a cooler that's unattended, even if it looks just like a cooler that's unattended, is it worth taking the time to find an officer and point it out just in case? Because I feel like we are potentially going to see an uptick with this. What's also interesting about this is that it has inspired many to call on an acceleration of some of Trump's Senate confirmations.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So we're hearing people. Incoming Majority Leader John Thune said the threat posed by ISIS will outlast this administration. And this is a clear example of why the Senate must get President Trump's national security team in place as quickly as possible. So, it's interesting because people are now calling on this to say, hey, we need to accelerate these nominations and confirmations as fast as possible so that we can get Trump's team in place. They can start doing the work to shore up our border and to make sure that we don't have these attacks going forward. The problem with this is that some of Trump's most controversial cabinet picks are in the national security arena. We're talking Pete Hegseth for the Pentagon, Kash Patel for FBI, and former Representative Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. So, there are a lot of complications with this. There's a lot of time involved in this. What do you think, Taylor? Do you think we'll see any sort of movement on this?
Well, first of all, I really don't appreciate the attempt to politicize these attacks in this way by Senator Thune. I'm going to call it out for the way I see it. Trying to politicize these attacks to try to gain more support for Donald Trump's national security nominees is absolutely disappointing.
Because that's what it is. It's pressure. It's political pressure.
Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is that you could claim that you may disagree with what they're doing or how they're doing it, but we have people in these positions right now, Aaron. So to try to use these attacks and politicize them in this way by a sitting U.S. senator to build momentum and support, to rush through the confirmation process of these nominees is, I don't know. There's a better word to use than disappointing, maybe deplorable, despicable, or some other words that come to mind, Aaron. But I was really disappointed by this, really disappointed. We should also point out that the initial reactions to this was to blame the quote-unquote open border policies of Joe Biden for these attacks. And now, fast forward just hours, just a day after, that is where blame was placed. We have learned that these attacks were carried out by U.S. citizens. Mm-hmm. One, an Army veteran, one, a current active member of the Army, a Green Beret.
Yep.
So, yes, we have issues with our border security, no question about it. But that is not where we should place blame for these attacks, at least these two.
Yeah. Well, you can get continuing coverage updates on these two attacks with the KSL News Radio app. You can get breaking news push alerts like what we've been discussing here on the most important and impactful stories of the day, both locally and nationally. You can also listen to all of the KSL News Radio shows as podcast. So go ahead and download that for free today so that you don't miss out on any crucial information. Just text the word app to 57500 and stay tuned for more coming up.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top local story this hour. Avalanche danger still high heading into the new year. 2 people have died in avalanches in Salt Lake County in just the past week. Drew Hardesty is a forecaster with the Utah Avalanche Center. He tells Utah's Morning News that it's not the newbies that are getting stuck in avalanches.
By and large, it's people that have actually a little bit of experience, a little bit of education, and tend to think that they can outsmart the avalanches, and particularly with the sort of setup that we have with, very weak, sugary, faceted snow underneath these new slabs of snow that have come in.
Hardesty says avalanches are just too unpredictable to leave to chance, and if forecasters advise to stay away, people should listen. Utah's outgoing state auditor will have a new position in the Attorney General's office. AG-elect Derek Brown has selected John Dougal as his office administrator. Dougal gave up the auditor's position to run for Congress, but finished well behind other candidates in the Republican primary. Tina Cannon won the election. to become the new state auditor. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Officials in Las Vegas say the person inside the Tesla Cybertruck that exploded outside a Trump hotel died from an apparently self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Authorities have identified him as Matthew Livelsberger, who served in the Green Berets and received 2 Bronze Stars. They say Livelsberger rented the truck through the Turo app in Denver on December 28th, charged it in various locations in Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona before going to Las Vegas. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is down on the day right now, 121 points, while the NASDAQ is down by 47. And our KSL weather looks like we're going to see things clear up a bit before the next storm moves in. That's coming up. KSL News Time, 1:32.
Hi, Doug Wright, and many of us are taking a deep breath after this festive holiday season and looking forward to a great new year. And hopefully you were one of the lucky souls who got a gift card to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. This is the time to cash it in. Whether you're going to go skiing up in the Park City area and want a little après dining at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, or whether you're downtown Salt Lake City, maybe looking forward to a great ball game, or just simply going to a movie, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple. And of course, up in the Park City area, it's Hotel Park City. The best meal. I know you've had some fine dining during the holiday season, but the best meal you have ever had awaits you at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse with your entree prepared exactly the way you want it. And at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, always save room for dessert. 2 locations, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Hotel Park City, downtown Salt Lake City.
The Salt Lake Chamber is Utah's voice for business. Okay, that sounds great, but what does it really mean? Well, as Utah's largest and longest-standing business association, they support and champion community prosperity throughout the state. And if you're in business, well, that's a very good thing for you. Be sure to listen to the Chamber's Speaking on Business, weekdays at 7:20, 11:55, and 5:20 p.m. on KSL News Radio.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. Don't miss Cold's new Season 3, where I look into the unsolved disappearance of Cherie Warren, a woman last seen leaving her job at a Salt Lake City office in 1985. Police cast suspicion on Cherie's estranged husband and boyfriend, but never made any arrests or recovered Cherie's remains. Find Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Rewards Checking. Here's Ricky Meese.
Cleanup continues of the injury accident, Highway 89 Beck Street at about 1500 North, 1400 North. Those right lanes are still blocked to traffic. Also a crash, possible injuries in Syracuse in Davis County, Antelope Drive at 10th West. That's 1000 West. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures in the valleys will reach the 50s today and tomorrow. The next storm moves in on Saturday. Right now, 50 degrees. It's mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to the new Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Appreciate you joining us today on Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. It is the new year. There is a lot happening in the news. Of course, we know that the new year, unfortunately, started off in a very tragic way with the attacks in New Orleans and the attack in Las Vegas. We are going to pivot now and look ahead a little bit to the upcoming 2025 legislative session, which is set to start in just a couple weeks later this month. And we are going to talk about one of the general issues, Aaron. And I'm with Aaron Ryder, I should point out. Aaron Ryder is joining me live here on KSL News Radio today. I am Taylor Morgan. Signatures, elections, vote by mail. Aaron, we know that these issues, the issues in our elections here in Utah, are going to be a very hot, controversial topic in the 2025 legislative session. And so we wanted to bring on a legislator, Representative Ray Ward, who has filed a bill titled Ballot Signature Amendments. Wanted to bring him on and talk about this bill, get a sense of what this bill could be. Before we do that, really quickly, anytime we talk about ballot signatures, I want to disclose my history as executive director of Count My Vote, the Utah organization that added the signature path to the ballot back in 2014. I still serve in the role as executive director of the Count My Vote organization, so it's important that I be transparent with our listeners and disclose that. And Aaron, you as a candidate, I know you've had experience going through caucus convention, also doing signatures. We can perhaps bring that up at some point in the conversation. But before we do that, let's bring Representative Ray Ward into the conversation. Representative Ward, thank you for joining us today. What can you tell us about your bill titled Ballot Signature Amendments? Representative Ward, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Good. Yeah.
What can you tell us about this? Now, I want to be clear with our listeners. Despite my disclosure there and my service with Count My Vote, I don't know what is in your bill. So what can you share about it? What can you tell our listeners about this bill?
Yeah, so by way of a little bit of background, I would say in all the other states, all 50 states, you can get on the ballot with signatures or with just filing, right? So some states don't require any signatures. If you want to run, you just file to run. Other states do require signatures, and Utah allows for signatures. So we are similar to all 50 other states in that respect. There's no other state that says you must only go through caucus convention and we won't let you on the ballot unless you do. But if you look at how many signatures we require in Utah, it is much different than other states. So the signature thresholds that we have here in Utah to run for office are 10 times as high as the averages in other states. So you go to the other states, some require 0, some require some, but if you average those out in other states, we're 10 times that high. So for our signature pathway, it is just 10 times as time-consuming or difficult as the average other state. So the bill's pretty simple. It just lowers our signature thresholds to put them in line with what most other states are like, which is about a 90% reduction. So that's what's in the bill.
Well, so that's really interesting. As a former candidate, and I was most recently the Republican nominee for Salt Lake County Mayor, I know that there is a lot of debate in particularly the Republican Party surrounding signatures and the caucus convention system. So tell us, how does this affect the caucus convention system? How do you how do you plan to navigate some of the dynamics there?
Well, so the bill doesn't speak to anything different at caucus convention. So a person who wishes to not have to get signatures and who wants to get on the ballot by virtue of going to convention and getting a vote, winning a vote there, they still can, just the same, exactly how they do now. This just says for a person who wishes to get on the ballot, but they think that they appeal best directly to the Republican voters, if we're talking the Republican Party, in their district, if they think that's who likes them as a candidate, they can go and appeal to them by getting signatures just in an easier way, and in a way that's similar to all the other states.
Yeah.
So there's both pathways. It just, to me, puts them in a better balance.
Yeah, and when we talk about signatures, I want to be clear that we're talking about these signatures of registered voters within a candidate's party. So if you're running to try to get on the Republican primary election ballot, you have to be nominated via signature by registered Republican voters in whatever district you're seeking. So there's a lot of talk often about just signatures being signatures, but I want to make the connection between a signature being the signature of a registered Republican for a Republican or, an eligible signer for a Democratic candidate, right? They're not just signatures. These are real voters who are nominating candidates to represent them. These are signatures that represent a voter saying, I want to have the ability to vote for this person on my primary election ballot. That's what a signature is. So, Rep. Ward, you said this bill titled Ballot Signature Amendments that you're sponsoring in the 2020-25 session could reduce those signature requirements by as much as 90%. What is the threshold? Have you come up with a flat percentage across all districts or set new lower numbers?
Give you some examples. Yeah, I just said there's a little part of code that sets what those numbers are. For the most part, there's a few exceptions to allow for super small counties and things like that. But in our code right now, we just set numbers. So a House seat in Utah, you have to get 1,000 signatures. If you were to try and pay someone if you were to try and pay someone to do that, that would cost you about $10,000. And the average in other states for that is 80, but in my bill I set it at 100. And for the governor, right now you have to get 28,000 here in Utah. That's $250,000 or more of funds to raise if you're paying people to do it, which really functionally you would have to pay people to do it. Individual and their friends can't get 28,000. We say you need to have $250,000 to do that. This would reduce it to 1,000. That's still not. 1,000 means you're not going to just sit down and say, hey, one afternoon I want to run for governor and get 1,000 signatures. That's still a whole lot of work. But it just puts it more in line with what other states are. So, like in a Senate race, we would move from 2,000 to 1,000. In a congressional race, we'd move from 7,000 to 500. But you can just think of it as becoming similar to other states, and that is about a 90% reduction. Is a simple way to think of it.
And one thing I want to clarify here, too, that Taylor kind of mentioned, we're talking about signatures to get on the primary ballot, right? This isn't signatures to get on the general election ballot. This is just for the primary.
Yeah. Now,
the same system we use now, just with a lower number.
Just reducing the thresholds.
Now, let me put my Count My Vote hat on here. And just for the sake of some background and history, I would remind our listeners that the current signature threshold numbers are incredibly high. But that is because back when the original dual path, the SB 54 piece of legislation was passed by the legislature back in 2014, those signature totals actually accounted for unaffiliated voters being able to participate in that process and nominate candidates. That was removed in the court after a lawsuit from the Utah Republican Party. And so unaffiliated voters are no longer able to sign to nominate, for example, Republican candidates, yet those very high unattainable signature thresholds remain. That has created a bit of a dependency on paid signature gathering, which is something that, those of us that Count My Vote never intended. That is a clear problem. It is a clear weakness within the current process, in my opinion. So, Representative Ward, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there because we are out of time. But really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to join us here on KSL News Radio's Inside Sources. We will have you back very soon to talk more about this bill and other items that you are sponsoring in the upcoming legislative session. Again, elections and the signature process, vote by mail, all of these are going to be hot topics in the legislative session this year. Coming up next here on KSL Inside Sources, we are going to turn to politics at the national level in Congress and talk about the upcoming re-election race for Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. Stay right here.
No two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be in the room with real people kind of learner, so he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. ¿Vos está pronto?
Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-838-6161. That's 800-838-6161. 800-838-6161.
Sign up for KSL text alerts and you could win cash. Text the word cash to 57500 for a chance to win $250. That's cash to 57500. Plus, you'll get breaking news and traffic updates right to your phone. Want to win more prizes? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking Utah Jazz news. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply. For an alternate entry method and complete contest rules, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
No two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be in the room with real people kind of learner, so he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. ¿Vos está pronto?
Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-838-6161. That's 800-838-6161. 800-838-6161.
Attention home buyers, want to save hundreds on your mortgage payment or buy a bigger, nicer home? Visit SaveRight.com. This is Rod with the SaveRight team at Realty Path. SaveRight, our name says it all. SaveRight real estate clients often save $300 to $600 a month on their mortgage. Life of loan savings can be over $300,000. SaveRight clients qualify for and buy bigger, nicer homes. Interest rates are around 7%. SaveRight clients can get fixed rates in the 5s. Our affiliate lender makes it all possible. You can even start with a rate in the 2s. If you're buying or selling a home in Utah, save a ton of money. Hire the SaveRight team of realtors. Visit SaveRight.com for more information.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Jeff Kaplan. When you're online, that's sometimes a source of fourth-hand information. Somebody does the reporting. Another website Googles, they find it, they rewrite it, and by the time you read it, you know the old game telephone. But KSL is a source of primary information. We have reporters on the street. They're out in the field finding out the details. And the difference between online and KSL News Radio, night and day.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Thomas. First, 2 people have died in avalanches just this week in Salt Lake County. Experts say the danger is still high. Second, State Auditor John Dougal has landed a new job in state government. And third, we're learning more about the man who set fire to a Tesla Cybertruck at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. 50 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Erin Ryder here with Taylor Morgan. We are continuing to talk about politics today, but we're going to move to the national scale here for a minute. President-elect Trump will enter the White House in less than 3 weeks. He's already faced some challenges getting his way with the continuing resolution Congress passed late last week. Could he lose his way with the speakership too? Once again, House Speaker Mike Johnson's fighting to maintain his speakership, even with Trump's endorsement. Congress is going to convene in their new session tomorrow, and that means we have the election of a speaker. The House is also going to vote on a new rules package that would raise the threshold to force a vote on ousting the speaker. So before we get too far into this, let's listen to ABC News' Steve Portney with the latest.
Electing a speaker is the first order of business for the newly organized House, and with the smallest majority Republicans have had in a century, Speaker Mike Johnson tells Fox News.
Can only afford to lose one or two. But I think we'll get it done.
ABC News counts at least one Republican who intends to vote against Johnson, and as many as 15 more who've said they're undecided. 2 years ago, it took 4 days and 15 ballots for the House to elect Kevin McCarthy as its Speaker. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Okay, so I want to break this into a couple of different things. First, let's just talk about the election of Mike Johnson as Speaker, and then maybe we'll talk for a minute about the rules change that we're going to have here. So what do you think, Taylor? Do you think Mike Johnson's going to have any trouble going into this?
Well, we know a few things about Speaker Mike Johnson. He has been, in my opinion, highly effective in the U.S. House of Representatives in brokering bipartisan deals to get important pieces of legislation passed out of the House. Now, the fact that he has received the Donald Trump endorsement, that may work for him and against him in some ways. I wouldn't say the support necessarily, not the support of House Democrats, but winning votes from sufficient numbers of House Democrats to be able to pass important pieces of legislation, for example, the budget deals, the continuing resolutions, important funding for national security, international security. These are things that Speaker Mike Johnson has been able to get done that, frankly, Kevin McCarthy before him was not able to get through the House. Kevin McCarthy, as we know, is ABC correspondent Stephen Portnoy just reminded us 2 years ago it took 4 days and 15 ballots for the House to elect Speaker Kevin McCarthy. As we know, at the time McCarthy was ousted by one member of the House calling for a vote of no confidence, calling for essentially his ouster. The House is now considering changes to that. But all of this, I think, Aaron, surrounding Speaker Mike Johnson has been able to get things done. Mike Johnson has not been on any far extreme end of the political spectrum in the U.S. House. You may see it differently, and I hope you do. I hope you disagree with me here. But I have been really encouraged by what I've seen so far from Speaker Mike Johnson. Have you seen it differently?
Well, I think that, it's an interesting question because I think there are many people out there who would say that Mike Johnson has not been effective and has not been able to pass a lot of legislation through the House and that he has not been able to wrangle the votes in many ways. Interestingly, the continuing resolution with the budget was a kind of an interesting test case. He had come up with a bipartisan solution with the Democrats. Elon Musk and then Trump shot it down.
Yeah.
And then they had to kind of go through a couple of rounds before they got back to that. So it's interesting, first of all, that Trump is supporting Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
And according to Trump's endorsement even is kind of an interesting endorsement because really all that Trump has said is he's the guy who can get the votes, not necessarily he's the right guy to do it. Just he's the guy who can get the votes.
Which is a bit of a new approach from former and President-elect Donald Trump here. A real practical lens through which this new Donald Trump administration appears to be approaching things.
Maybe so. And maybe there was a lesson learned from Kevin McCarthy and watching sort of the chaos that Congress had to go through for, not just the time during which Kevin McCarthy had to get the votes, those 4 days, but also the time after that when he was basically ousted from the seat with that vote of no confidence. We already know that one Republican, Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky, has pledged to vote for someone other than Johnson and has basically said, I respect and support President Trump, but his endorsement of Mike Johnson is going to work out about as well as his endorsement of Speaker Paul Ryan. We've seen Johnson partner with the Democrats to send money to Ukraine, authorize spying on Americans, and blow the budget. So it will be interesting to see, this is a really difficult position for a speaker to be in because you have a razor-thin majority. It's not a very friendly environment.
Yeah.
And you've got to find a way to pass legislation to get anything done so you're not a totally lame duck Congress.
That's right. Well, and the Trump administration knows this, right? They remember all too well. Susie Wiles, chief of staff to President-elect Donald Trump, remembers very clearly how Matt Gaetz and the House Freedom Caucus thwarted Donald Trump's attempt back in 2017 to repeal the ACA, Obamacare. That was thwarted. That was derailed by the Freedom Caucus in the U.S. House.
Mm-hmm.
And the House Freedom Caucus, for better or for worse, the reality is they have been greatly diminished following the reelection of Donald Trump. Very interesting to see. The Trump administration, I think they know a few things. They know that they have a very short window. Historically speaking, of course, we should expect that Congress will flip in 2 years in the midterm, right? That has happened to almost every president, of course, recent memory, right? It happened to Donald Trump after 2 years. It happened to Biden. It happened to President Obama before Trump. This is what happens. This Donald Trump administration, this new administration, has a clear mandate, I believe, from the American voters. They want to see results. They want to see Congress and this Trump administration get things done when it comes to the budget, when it comes to the border. And if they don't get results, if they run into issues in the U.S. House, Donald Trump is going to lose a Republican Congress in 2026. And the question is Speaker Mike Johnson the guy that can get it done?
Well, I think the other question that goes along with that is what happens to the Freedom Caucus? You know, like you said, they were the ones that kind of, they basically led us to this point where we have Speaker Mike Johnson. In fact, I think Speaker Mike Johnson was a member of the House Freedom Caucus. And now one of the things that we're looking at as part of this is a change on the rules package. So currently, one member of the House can put up a vote of no confidence for the Speaker and force a vote on whether or not the Speaker should be ousted or retain their seat. This is what happened to Kevin McCarthy and his downfall after Matt Gaetz. It was Matt Gaetz, right? Called for the ouster or the vote of no confidence. So the change now in the rules is to increase that no confidence vote to 9 members of the majority party.
Yeah.
And this is going to be really interesting because the fight over the rules package in some ways is almost as important as the fight over who gets speaker.
It is. And I think this is a much needed change. That's my opinion. And it has nothing to do with my opinion about my Speaker Mike Johnson. I don't care who the speaker is. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat or what their political ideologies are or even how they lead in the U.S. House, Aaron. Having worked in the U.S. House for some time in my career, you were on the Senate side, if I recall, working.
Yeah, I worked on the Senate side.
So we both have some experience working in Congress. We know firsthand how dysfunctional Congress can be. Allowing one member of the majority party in the House to trigger a vote of no confidence and cause a procedural nightmare, that to me is ridiculous.
And it was a nightmare. I don't know if I watched that. I watched all of it. I mean, it was fascinating, but it was absolute chaos, and we all knew it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, we'll continue to monitor the situation in Congress. I'm of the opinion that any kind of rules package that can increase efficiencies and minimize the internal political bickering in the U.S. House is probably a good thing. Mm-hmm. And so even if you don't love Speaker Mike Johnson, I think allowing him a little more runway, a little more security with the politics in the House to potentially get things done, I think that could be a good thing. We will see if he gets reelected. Stay right here, listeners. Coming up in hour 2, we're going to talk about how front license plates are no longer required in Utah. That's after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top story this hour. A West Valley couple was found dead in their home on New Year's Day after a deadly confrontation between police and their son. Yesterday, just after 5 p.m., authorities responded to a 911 call from a home on Antirado Avenue. And there, officers discovered the couple's bodies inside. They then confronted the son. The situation ended with an officer shooting and killing him, but details about just what led to the shooting haven't yet been released. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The half-brother of a man accused of ramming a truck down Bourbon Street in New Orleans on New Year's Day says he's in shock over the attack. Speaking from his home in Texas, 24-year-old Abdur Jabbar says this was not the brother he knew.
We don't condone things like this. This isn't a representation of Islam or being a Muslim.
Authorities say Jabbar killed 14 people when he drove onto a sidewalk, then opened fire on the crowd and police officers. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is down on the day right now, 151 points. The NASDAQ is down 30 points at this hour. And our KSL weather looks like it's going to clear up for a day, and then the rain comes back. That's next. KSL News Time 2:01.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body?
Huh?
That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Are they promising you up to 10% growth per year guaranteed for your retirement income? If not, you need a new financial advisor. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hard-working folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 up front or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't work when you're supposed to be retired. And if any financial advisor tells you it's too good to be true, they simply don't have the options we do. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Hi friends, Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. In celebration of over 32 years of serving humans in Utah with their computer and tech needs, we've slashed our prices. And these are the new 2025 models. Here's the deal. You can get our new 2025 S1 desktop with a blazing Ryzen 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing fast storage on this promotion. We also have our new 2025 SM3 laptop with the Intel i5 processor, 16 gigs, and over a terabyte of storage for $999. You can take one home today for $999. And you also get the peace of mind of our lifetime service warranty. We also have 12 months special financing available, and they start as low as $29 a month. But hurry in because supplies are limited. Because at PC Laptops, we love you. PCLaptops.com. Take home a blazing fast 2025 model desktop or laptop for $999 at PCLaptops.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Rewards Checking. And here's Ricky Meese.
We do have cleanup of an accident northbound Bangerter Highway at 4100 South. No major delays in the area. And if you're traveling the Valley freeways, you're also looking at a nice and quiet drive. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures in the valleys have gotten to the 50s today, and will again tomorrow. The next storm moves in on Saturday. Right now, we're at 52 degrees with mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to the second hour of the new Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. I am Taylor Morgan, partner at Morgan May Public Affairs, alongside Aaron Ryder. Aaron, introduce yourself quickly to our listeners. Aaron, you have a super impressive background. You have been everywhere in Utah politics. Quickly introduce yourself to our listeners.
Sure. Thanks, Taylor. So I'm an attorney here in town. I was most recently the Republican nominee for Salt Lake County Mayor. I've also run for the U.S. House of Representatives and have been involved in a variety of ways in the Republican Party and in politics here locally. Worked for the Senate Finance Committee, as I know you were in the House. So, happy to be here.
Great to have you here, Aaron. We are kicking off 2025 by talking about the upcoming legislative session. There are going to be a lot of controversial topics we expect to see essentially be debated on the Hill starting later this month. Aaron, I want to put the focus now as we kick off the second hour of the show. I want to focus on some of my favorite pieces of legislation. Things that are just really basic and practical, down to earth, some things that Utahns just have to deal with day to day, Aaron. And one of the things that has always bugged me in the past in Utah is that it was technically required by law to have a license plate on the front of your vehicle. Now, I have some hot takes, some strong opinions on this. So,
I cannot wait to hear them.
So it's safe to say that I'm a strong supporter of a bill that passed in the Utah legislature recently, Senate Bill 45, that eliminated the requirement for front license plates in Utah starting yesterday. In 2025, listeners, you no longer have to have a license plate on the front of your vehicle, and it is all thanks to one of the very best in the Utah State Senate, State Senator Dan McKay, who is joining us on the line live now. Senator, welcome to the program. Tell us, what does it feel like to be a hero of the people here in Utah?
First of all, when you said the best, I thought for sure Todd Weiler was the next person on the phone. I didn't know you'd come to me, so I appreciate that.
No offense to Todd, friend of the show, Senator Todd Weiler. He has done a few good things in the state Senate, too. I don't know that he's done anything on the level of eliminating the requirement for front license plates, though, Senator.
Well, the front license plate is always an interesting debate. You think back, gosh, I think it was 2017 when we finally got everybody together and figured out, statistically, everything else, that the safety inspections weren't like adding the value that people, were hoping that it would as far as safety and that kind of stuff. And so we did away with safety inspections, and that was my bill. I guess it's 2015, and that was my bill. And I just kind of, get into these things that, constituents complain about one thing or another. But I had a constituent complain about, hey, if you look across the United States, there are 19 states that don't require a front license plate. And so we kind of started talking to law enforcement and started talking through lots of issues. And the one thing that came up was we save a bunch of money if we don't require a front license plate because we're only printing one plate per car. And so that was like a $2 million savings. And that was, that in a year where we're all trying to, pinch pennies, that $2 million was pretty compelling. And then, it also created the opportunity for us to, with that savings, to try and come up with some newer designs. The bill also required, and this is something that was passed I think it's about 7 years ago, where people were able to put like a clear cover over the license plate to, protect the plate or whatever. And what we found is that those plate covers were getting in the way of law enforcement. And so law enforcement was willing to trade the front plate for getting rid of for getting rid of the allowance for covers. And so while it's a good because we don't have the front plate anymore, we also have to be ready for some of us have covers that cover the license plate, clear or not, and they need to come off.
Well, so that's a great question because,
good to know.
One of the questions with this is if you have a front license plate on your car already, can you leave it on? Do you have to remove it? And what do you do? What is the average Utahn have to do as a result of this bill?
Yeah, if you have a front license plate in your car, you are welcome to keep it on. There is nothing that stops you from having that. that's, I think it's great. You want to keep that on. That's all for you. If and when you want to go replace that plate, they'll have a process. If you desire to have a second plate, you can figure that out. But right now, if you have it on there and don't want it on there, take it off.
Now,
and if you don't have it on there, congratulations, you're now following the law.
I was going to say, Senator, not to get myself in any trouble here. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on not having had a front license plate on any of my cars for a very long time. But does this mean that car dealers here in the state of Utah will no longer be drilling holes into front bumpers? Because that always bugged me, right? You'd go, you'd buy a new vehicle, and they would have to drill holes in the front of the car to be in compliance with the law. So does that mean that when people buy a new car, they're going to get a nice, clean front bumper?
Yeah, that's what it means. And no more drilling holes, no more, any of that stuff. I mean, that was one of the things that came up. I thought all cars came ready for a front plate, and finding out that wasn't like a thing was also like, come on, guys, we shouldn't be doing this. And luckily, everybody kind of came together. We saw the savings. We saw the bill is really a bunch of little things that are kind of in it to improve the process. Like, for example, it's a little thing, but it saves like $250,000 just to go down to one sticker. So in the future,
tell us about this, because
Yeah.
The month sticker here in Utah has been an issue. I have had to request replacement month stickers for my boat, for my cars. I've had to do this several times over the years because the printing hasn't held up. We're going to one sticker now. Talk more about that.
Yeah, so you'll get one sticker, and on that sticker will be both the month and the registration year. So they've been separate in the past, and we're going to go to one sticker where every year you will get the combined new sticker of month and year. And as soon as that's designed, we'll roll that out. For right now, it's fine just to leave it the way it is. But future designs will have a spot for one sticker, and a lot of states are going to using one sticker. And, it's worked out great, and people can see it. It'll still change colors like they had before. And this is just one way that we're trying to pinch pennies and do the right thing at the state government level.
So now, forgive me if I'm a little bit ignorant here. It's been a while since I've gotten my car, but is there...
That was a humble brag by Aaron Ryder right there.
No, that was I'm fiscally responsible. Okay. That's what that was.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So when you go to get a new car, when you go to register a car with the DMV, do you have to pay a fee for a license plate at the DMV? Like, in other words, is there a cost savings there's a cost savings on the taxpayer side, on the state side, but is there also a direct cost saving to car owners as they go to register with the DMV?
Yes, and we did also reduce the registration fee, and then in addition to reducing the registration fee, we also took a portion of the registration fee that was savings, and we put more of that into law enforcement for safety purposes and helping improve our road safety and providing more support on the highway for road drivers in Utah. So there's a lot of those things that kind of went into the bill that really, I feel like we're going to really move the state forward as far as things we can do. And it's interesting now. We also created a committee in that process that will, it's a small committee, and they'll be reviewing and redoing basically the images behind the state plate. So, there have been some people that have requested, hey, can I get the original Ski Utah plate? Can I get, my favorite one that I hear from people all the time, this is just not, it's kind of something funny, but the BYU, personal plate for BYU has a big red Utah in the middle of it. And, my Cougar fan friends.
I think that's great, like, Senator.
I think this is a necessary change.
Yeah. So Cougar fans have been like, it'd be nice if I didn't have a big red Utah on my blue Cougar plate. So, we're looking at some of those things. And that's going to be, we're going to notice I'm hoping it's not subtle, but you saw with the black license plate, we've already raised $6 million for the Historical Society for Utah. And that's $6 billion. Nobody anticipated that a plain black and white license plate would do that well, but I think it shows in the market and around the state of Utah People are more interested in things that are designed well. And that's what I think we're going to see from the future on these plates.
Yep. State Senator Dan McKay, thank you so much for joining us here on KSL News Radio's Inside Sources. Look forward to having you back during the session to keep our listeners updated on anything and everything going down on the Capitol. Thanks so much. Coming up next, Aaron, we're going to talk with another member of the Utah legislature about his efforts to help address issues surrounding homelessness here in the state of Utah. Stay right here for that conversation after the break.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
No two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be in the room with real people kind of learner, so he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. Vos está pronto.
Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
$182,000. According to CBS News, Americans lose out on an average of $182,000 in Social Security income because they file for their benefits at the wrong time. Learn how you could wring every nickel out of your benefits with a free Social Security analysis from Boss Retirement Solutions. This free analysis pinpoints the optimal time to file for Social Security while considering the impact on your taxes, IRA and 401k withdrawals, and Medicare premiums. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, schedule your free analysis now by calling 801-896-9622. Discover how you could wring every nickel out of your Social Security benefits. Call 801-896-9622. 801-896-9622.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online. I read that 3 out of 4 adults in the United States have a high risk factor for severe COVID-19. And black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless hack that can cut your cell phone bill in half. Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile have convinced you need unlimited data. Fact is, most people don't. Pure Talk only charges $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus hotspot. Stop overpaying for wireless. Dial pound 250 and say switch now to save 50% off your first month with Pure Talk.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
An airliner heads for Alaska with 101 passengers and crew. Then, somewhere over the Gulf of Alaska, Flight 293 slams into the icy water below.
Even if all 4 engines quit, it just doesn't fall out of the sky.
No bodies were recovered. Loved ones had no closure and were left to wonder.
What happened to Flight 293?
Unsolved Histories: What Happened to Flight 293 is available now. Follow us at unsolvedhistoriespod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a deadly confrontation with West Valley police led to the discovery of the bodies of the man's parents. Second, the half-brother of the suspect in the New Orleans truck attack says this is not the brother he knew and not his idea of being a Muslim. And third, one of the Osmond brothers has passed away. Wayne Osmond was 73. 52 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. This is Taylor Morgan alongside Aaron Ryder, welcoming you into 2025. Aaron, we have been really all over the map today with the news, with the politics of the day. Of course, we know that 2025, unfortunately, is off to a tragic start with the terrorist attack in New Orleans, the attack in Las Vegas. We covered those developing stories in the first hour of the show, and now we are talking more about local politics. We've had some great conversations with legislators about the 2025 session. We'll have another conversation with a member of the Utah House coming up in the next segment. But right now, Aaron, I really want to maybe take a step back as politicos here in the state of Utah. Aaron, you're a Republican. You have been involved in Republican politics really at every level here in the state. You and I both spent some time working in Congress. You worked with, I believe, then the late, great Senator Orrin Hatch on the Senate Finance Committee. Yep. Aaron, you have very impressive academic credentials, I should let our listeners know as well. Not only did you go to Georgetown, but you got a JD and an MBA at the same time from Georgetown. So
this is great. Please continue.
You know,
Taylor.
I just want our listeners to know that you're a very credible, knowledgeable voice when it comes to Congress and the legislature and local Utah politics as we get into this next topic, Aaron. I want to take a really objective look at Spencer Cox, Governor Spencer Cox, governor of the state of Utah. I want to reflect on the first 4 years of his leadership here in the state of Utah. Of course, we know that Governor Cox was reelected to serve a second term. He has said that it will be his last term. So, Aaron, I want to spend some time here in this segment looking back, reflecting on the first Governor Cox term, and then perhaps dive into some wild speculation about what we could see in the next 4 years of this final Cox administration. It will be fun. So where should we start, Aaron? What would you like to mention? What thoughts do you have about Governor Spencer Cox and his first term in office serving as governor of the great state of Utah?
Well, I think starting there is a good place to start. The great state of Utah. You know, Utah consistently ranks as one of the best states, if not the best state, in almost every category out there, almost every publication out there. And, I think that you can certainly credit Governor Cox's efforts to that because, I think we've been on that trend for a while and we've been working there for quite a while, but you need good leadership to continue that trend. And so I think that's a good place to start. We've seen some really interesting things come with that, some interesting challenges, particularly around our housing supply and some of our resource management and things like water management and energy. And so, I'm sure we will talk about those things. But I think, looking at it as a whole, Utah is a great state to be.
Yeah, we absolutely have really the strongest, fastest growing economy in the nation. Utah is the best place we know to start a business. Utah's tech sector is booming. We have all kinds of opportunities here. We also have some very, very serious challenges when it comes to the housing crisis. And it is indeed a crisis of housing affordability here in the state of Utah. That is a serious problem that if we don't address, it is going to shut down our growth and our economic abilities here in the state. I want to point our listeners to an excellent article published in the Deseret News on December 30th by Brigham Tomko. The headline, the title of that article was Unfinished Business, the Cox Administration Reflects on Triumphs and Trials from the First 4 Years. Brigham does a wonderful job recapping some of the accomplishments of Governor Cox's team, as well as some of the serious trials that they experienced and continue to face in the executive office there. Let's start with the Great Salt Lake. We know that there's a lot of work to do.
Yes.
But I was pleasantly surprised as a conservative Republican in the state of Utah, having spent a lot of time working with a Republican-led, Republican-dominated, you could say, state legislature that is very conservative. I was surprised, I think in a good way, by what we saw happen on Utah's Capitol Hill when it came to a environmental crisis with the Great Salt Lake.
I totally agree with that. And putting in the Republican plug here, right? We're both Republicans in this conversation, but actually being good stewards over the environment is a core Republican tenet. And it's not one that gets talked about as much as some of the others, but people in Utah really do take a lot of pride in taking care of their environment. And so, like you, I was really thrilled to see the legislature and Governor Cox step up and decide to invest in the Great Salt Lake because we need to take care of it. There are a lot of things that rely on the Great Salt Lake thriving, and I think it's pretty clear that we need to put effort into it.
Yeah. In this piece published in the Deseret News by reporter Brigham Tomko, the Cox administration pointed to 4 key accomplishments or 4 key issue areas as highlights of Governor Cox's first term in office. They pointed to water. We mentioned the Great Salt Lake. We have made a lot of progress with saving the Great Salt Lake there. So they pointed to water. They pointed to education. Rich Nye, the governor's senior advisor for education, praised the school choice compromise that Governor Cox helped negotiate that resulted in a $6,000 pay raise for teachers and generated new interest and excitement among potential educators, choosing that as a career field. He also pointed to the $2.6 billion spent on Utah's K-12 education system, including $130 million targeted for rural school construction needs. Also, social media. The state of Utah, for better or for worse, I at some points was a critic of the approach, but in fairness, Utah led the way in holding big tech accountable, especially when it comes to the mental health and safety of young Utahns, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's going to be really interesting to watch because we're now seeing that play out in other states as well.
Yeah. Now, we don't have a lot of time, Aaron. We have just about a minute left in this segment. What do you think Governor Cox is going to really prioritize over the next 4 years, if you had to guess?
Well, I think if I'm going to choose 2 big things, it's going to be housing and homelessness. And there are certainly others on there, but he has talked many times about the need to address our housing crisis. He wants to put 35,000 homes, affordable homes, starter homes in over the next few years. So that's going to be a big one. And homelessness is going to be a big issue as well. We're going to talk more about that in the next segment, though.
Yep, exactly right. Listeners, stay right here with us on KSL News Radio's Inside Sources. This is Taylor Morgan alongside Aaron Ryder. Coming up, as Aaron just mentioned after the break, we are going to have, I think, what will be a very interesting conversation with a current member of the Utah House about his new approach to addressing some of the issues surrounding homelessness in the upcoming 2025 legislative session. Stay right here. That is coming up after the break.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. We have breaking news. We're learning now the identities of the family killed in their West Valley City home yesterday. Neighbors have identified them as Carrie and Terry Bertelson, along with their son Eric. Police say they were dispatched to a home on Enterado Avenue yesterday. That's where they found the bodies of Carrie and Terry. Police believe they were killed by their adult son Eric, who was confronted and killed by police inside the home. We'll continue to bring you the latest on this story. A couple more inches of rain are needed this month to bring statewide precipitation to the same levels as past years. KSL News Radio's Alessandra Gurr has the details on that.
The rain and snowfall we've received the last few weeks of December really helped bring statewide average precipitation levels to right around where they have been the past few years. However, around 4 inches of water is needed this month to get us to where we have been in the year since 2022, according to data from the Utah Division of Water Resources. January is looking healthy water-wise so far, with about 1/10 of an inch of water falling in the Salt Lake Valley over the last 24 hours.
Another storm system expected to hit the state on Saturday. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Authorities say 3 people are dead, 20 others injured in a New Year's fireworks explosion in Honolulu. This accident happened around midnight when a lit bundle of mortar-style fireworks tipped over and fired into crates containing more fireworks that then exploded. 2 women died at the scene. A 3rd woman died at the hospital. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average ending trading today down 151 points. The NASDAQ was down 30. The S&P 500 down 13. And our KSL weather looks like we'll see the sun coming out over the next day or so, and then another storm. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age. Brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Imagine a currency that has true value, a currency that's local, protects your wealth, and resists inflation. Now imagine that currency is anchored to the stability of gold. Introducing Goldbacks, a currency made of 24-karat gold, accepted at over 800 businesses in Utah. Don't just imagine it. Visit alpinegold.com to start spending in gold. Use promo code RADIO to get free shipping on orders of over $200 or more.
Guns. Rocky Mountain Gun Shows.
Don't miss the Rocky Mountain Gun Show, Saturday and Sunday, January 4th and 5th at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. 2 semi-truckloads of wholesale ammo with no limit on quantity. Get 500 rounds of 9mm ammo for just $85. Shop our massive selection of firearms, mags, knives, and outdoor equipment. It's the Rocky Mountain Gun Show, so you know it'll be good.
Rocky Mountain Gun Shows.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history.
Cherie Warren disappeared.
Are now together for free at KSLPodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files. Season 2, Justice for Joyce. And Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at KSLPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Rewards Checking. And here's Ricky Meese.
We did have an accident on southbound I-15 in the Layton area. Looks like crews have been able to get that moved out of the way. I'm not seeing any backups yet, and I'm trying to find where the accident was actually happening. But right now it looks like it was prior to about Layton Parkway. We'll keep you up to date if anything develops from that. And then we also have a nice looking drive on your Salt Lake County freeways with no accidents or delays. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures in the valleys reach the upper 40s and 50s today and tomorrow. The next storm moves in on Saturday. And right now we're at 54 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Erin Ryder here with Taylor Morgan. We are continuing our dive into local politics, particularly some of the legislation that we're going to be seeing in the upcoming 2025 legislative session. Now, in 2024, we saw several controversial and combative incidents involving proposed homeless shelters. So in the coming legislative session, one Utah lawmaker in particular wants to address some of the concerns that folks had regarding homeless shelters and their placements. So today we have State Representative Tyler Clancy with us to talk about this bill. Now, I just want to say here that Representative Clancy is certainly a rising star within the legislature and has his hands...
Not just the legislature, Aaron.
Utah politics?
He might be the most famous nationally
member
you're right.
of
the Utah House of Representatives.
We have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into the meat here, Representative Clancy, we just want to mention that you had a moment here on the Dr. Phil show.
You guys are too kind. I was just a supporting role on that show, but always happy to spread the good news wherever we go.
Well, we're so happy to have you with us today. So let's talk about your bill on homeless shelters. Give us a little bit of a rundown on what's in the bill, your motivation behind it, et cetera.
Well, you really nailed it in your intro there, Aaron, and talking about how communities, when shelters or homeless resources have been, proposed to be in certain people's communities, that's kind of where it ends. And we don't necessarily address those concerns with the exception of kind of finger wagging and saying, how dare you? You're not a good Christian if you don't want this in your neighborhood, without acknowledging that the resources that currently do exist do have significant challenges. Yeah. So really what I'm trying to do is just to fundamentally get to the root of the issue and recognize that if we don't address the issues that exist within the current resources that we have, how do we ever expect to address this on a statewide level? So that's really where I come from, is listening to all of the feedback, listening to the concerns, and believing your own eyes. When you go down to these places, they're really hubs for disorder and open air drug use.
Yeah, no question about that, Representative. As a 20-year resident of Draper, I was front and center to what happened in my city a few years ago, when then Salt Lake County Mayor Ben McAdams teamed up with Draper Mayor Troy Walker at that time to move the possibility forward of establishing a new homeless shelter in Draper City. That was met with significant resistance from Draper residents, and the concerns that you mentioned were front and center in that debate, in that conversation. And at the time, residents overwhelmed Draper Mayor Walker and County Mayor Ben McAdams with opposition, and that was shut down. There is no homeless shelter in Draper, in part because of these type of concerns. Now, tell us a little bit about how your legislation would address some of the resistance and some of these kind of concerns.
Certainly. So it really comes from two ways. One is the internal policies. So when you look at our homeless resources, what are the expectations that are set with clients? What are the public safety expectations that are set with the community surrounding it? So I'll give you an example. I think that a lot of times we think that by taking a permissive attitude towards drugs, and I would just say generally disorder, that maybe some people feel like that's compassionate. But I want you to put yourself in the shoes of someone who may be homeless, trying to get back on their feet, and who's in recovery from fentanyl or meth addiction. And now all of a sudden, we've allowed someone into the shelter. We've kind of turned a blind eye to someone who is using those drugs. Well, now that puts me in a bad position. Now, for all of those residents who don't want to be around drugs, who don't want to be around that disorder, we're actually hurting them. So we need to set clear expectations about what behavior needs to be reported to law enforcement, what type of behavior can be held internally. And then certainly we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard for law enforcement surrounding homeless resource centers. Yeah. It doesn't help anyone. We have data that shows homeless individuals are magnitudes of order more likely to be victims of violence and other violent crime themselves. And so we're by taking that permissive approach, we're not helping anyone, and we're only perpetuating the issue.
Yeah. So much of this, Representative Clancy, and please clarify, push back if you disagree with me, but the way I see this from the outside, I don't have the experience you do, right? You've been a police officer in Provo. You're now a detective. You know this issue much better than I do. But from my perspective, I see a serious political divide coming into play here. And I think specifically of Salt Lake City, right? The persistent issues we have seen in Salt Lake City, from my vantage point at least, as a product of the approach taken by Mayor Aaron Mendenhall, right, to homelessness. That has come under fire from legislative leaders, from Senate,
and from the governor.
And from the governor, right? And so some of this could be political, just different approaches politically to the issue of homelessness. Is that fair, or would you frame it differently?
So you mentioned the letter sent by, Speaker Schultz, Governor Cox, and President Adams to the mayor of Salt Lake City. I can tell you that I've since then it's spurred meetings on legislation, spurred meetings on solution. Certainly, with different political stripes, it's kind of like the three blind mice. We're all touching a different part of the challenge here.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that right or left or center, no one is okay with open air drug use in their neighborhood. No one is okay with discarded drug paraphernalia in their child's playground. No one's okay with crime and disorder in their neighborhood. So I really do think in the meetings that I've been in, I've been very heartened to see leaders of all political stripes, including Mayor Mendenhall, saying this has reached, level 10. Let's get in here. Let's get into the weeds. Certainly we're going to approach it from different perspectives, but we can all agree that a problem exists and we need to address it. So I'm actually pretty confident in seeing some movement there.
Yeah, that's great. So I live in Mill Creek, and a couple years ago, Mill Creek had one of the temporary shelters in one of the old Salt Lake County libraries there, and they put some restrictions in place. They had lockers outside the building, and they were very strict on the kind of behavior that could exist within the shelter. And because of it, it was, I think most people agree, it was a success. And one of the questions I think that comes with this is, how do you make sure that we have the law enforcement staff and presence and the staff in these shelters themselves to actually make sure that we're able to enforce this? Because that was one thing that Mill Creek did. They made sure that any calls that came from that shelter were priority calls and could be addressed.
Yeah. Representative Clancy, I'm making a note here to my producer that we should absolutely reach out to Mayor Aaron Mendenhall. We should invite her on the program, perhaps tomorrow, to get her take on this. But from your side of things, talking about your legislation in this session to deal with homelessness, have you had any response or direct conversation with Mayor Mendenhall about this yet?
I have. And really what we want to do, the way I approach this issue is let's make sure that we have all the tools in the toolkit to address this. Aaron just put it well. Let's leave no stone unturned. Let's make sure that this is a priority. How do we get the resources there? The conversations I've had with Mayor Mendenhall, with Chief Mike Brown of Salt Lake City Police, is to say, we're trying. We need more help, and so we need more resources. Part of that is on the back end, the judicial system, where arresting people with felony warrants and they're being released within the matter of hours before the officer finishes his report. That is an opportunity where the state can team up and partner up and give support. Addressing nuisance properties, these really cash-only hotels that have become drug dens and prostitution dens. There's opportunities for us to work together. And, it's politics. There's always politics. But I can tell you that I've been really heartened because I've seen a lot less finger-pointing with everyone and a lot more saying, let's get down to the issues and let's figure this out.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out because homelessness is certainly going to be a big issue going forward. And we're probably going to have you back more than once to talk about this. So we really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, Representative Tyler Clancy, thanks so much for joining us to talk about this issue. And as Aaron said, we will make sure we have you back regularly during the session as this bill and others make their way through the process. So thank you.
In our final segment on today's Inside Sources, we're going to finish things off with some of our own personal political predictions and things that we're watching in 2025. We'll be right back.
No two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be-in-the-room-with-real-people kind of learner, so he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. Vos está pronto.
Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at babbel.com, BABBEL.com.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Where can you kick off the new year with big savings on gig speed? Only with Xfinity. Now through January 16th, get gig internet at home for $25 a month for 1 year when you add an unlimited mobile line, which connects you with gig speed Wi-Fi on the road. Act fast today and save more than $650 over AT&T and Verizon in your first year. Plus, hurry and take advantage because right now you can also get a free 5G phone with trade-in. So save big and stay connected to what you love with fast gig speed internet and mobile from home to hotspots. This new year, it's all about gig speeds and big savings. Don't wait and get gig speed internet, spend less green, and switch to Xfinity. Go to xfinity.com/gig savings to learn more. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account restrictions apply. Equipment taxes and fees extra. $40 internet discount applied to mobile bill after promo. Regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary. Savings compared to Verizon Fiber Gig plus 1 unlimited welcome line and AT&T Fiber Gig plus 1 unlimited starter line. Xfinity internet required reduced speeds after 30 gigabytes of usage per line. Data thresholds and actual speeds vary.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the man and woman found dead in their home in West Valley have been identified. They were Carrie and Terry Bertelsen. Their son Eric was killed in a confrontation with police. Second, we have some catching up to do in January to make up for a dry December. Third, 3 people died in a New Year's Eve fireworks accident in Hawaii. 54 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Ryder here with Taylor Morgan. We are going to finish out the show today talking about some of the things that we are watching for 2025. It's the new year, which often brings out a lot of different resolutions, most of which peter out in the first few weeks. Taylor, I don't know how you're doing with your New Year's resolutions so far.
So far, so good, Erin. Let me tell you what, I did not set any resolutions whatsoever, and so I am sitting at 100%. I'm batting 1,000. So far, so good.
There
Day
you go.
2.
That's the way to do it. Well, you know what does not peter out is politics. So let's just talk about some predictions for 2025 or things that we're watching, kind of both things. So this is just 2025 has the potential to be a really interesting year, kind of a crazy year politically. And let's talk. So I'll start here. One of the things that I'm watching on the federal side, particularly on the Trump side, is I think we may see an interesting split at some point between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. We've talked a little bit on the show about the dynamics between the two of them. I think you could see a time where you've got two type A personalities here, both essentially trying to run the federal government. Trump may at some point get tired of Elon Musk, and we may see an interesting split there. So that's one of the things I think we're going to be watching.
Erin, what do you think of some of the criticism coming at Elon Musk these days, and also at Donald Trump, essentially claiming that, this isn't going to be a Donald Trump administration. It's going to be an Elon Musk administration.
President Musk.
What do you think about that? How do you react to that?
Yeah, I mean, we like I said, we've talked about this on the show before. It's not uncommon for presidents to have advisors. It's not uncommon for people to be in appointed positions like Musk will be with the Department of Government Efficiency. What's interesting is that Elon Musk just happens to be very, very, very public. I mean, he's like, the most common poster.
I mean, he owns X.
He owns
bought X.
Right.
I'm convinced that, and this is just Taylor Morgan speculating here, right? I want to be clear about that. But, the way I see it, I think Elon Musk knew what he was doing when he bought Twitter, now rebranded as X. He did that not to make money, because he's only lost money on the purchase of Twitter. He did that to insert himself into the limelight of all political conversation, and I think it has been very successful in that. If you see it that way, I think it's hard to argue that Elon Musk is not the front and center of political conversation in America today. I think he bought X, bought Twitter, and rebranded it in order to do that, and I think he's been successful with it.
Yeah, and so I think, I think the interesting question is, where does that go, right? I mean, President Trump-elect Trump is not necessarily a person who takes well to sharing the spotlight, and so how long does that relationship last? How long does Elon Musk's post last with the Department of Government Efficiency?
We've seen this with Donald Trump in his first term. Right. We have seen that Donald Trump, in fairness to Donald Trump, loyalty in politics is not something that is isolated to Donald Trump.
No.
Ultimately, when it comes to political power, loyalty is the currency of politics in this country. And in Donald Trump's second run for office, we saw that many of his political appointees from his first term turned on him, right? And so Donald Trump has the incentive to bring in people that he trusts, that are loyal to him. But again, Erin, your question, I think, is so prescient, is so relevant right now. How long will those relationships last? And how will it impact Donald Trump if, say, his relationship with Elon Musk were to turn, right? Yep. A lot of questions there. This leads to one of the things I really want to talk about when we think about predictions for this year, for 2025, looking ahead to this new Donald Trump administration, to Congress, and all of it, really. Populism versus conservatism.
Interesting.
Donald Trump populism is not traditional Republican conservatism. How long will that last?
Yeah, and what's really interesting about that is that populism can be cannibalistic in nature.
What do you mean by that?
So we saw this with Kevin McCarthy earlier on the show. We were talking about Speaker Mike Johnson and his ability to retain the speakership. And one of the things that can come out of a populist movement, and we see this in different populist movements really throughout the world over time, is that it tends to be a burn it all down environment, right? Yeah. And if something doesn't go right, you get everything out, a little bit of the drain the swamp mentality, and it's putting Congress in this really interesting pressure cooker. So how far does, that can only go so far. If you're kicking everybody out, if they're not doing what you want them to do, there's nobody left at the end of the day. We see this even within the Republican Party, loyalty to Trump, even with voters, with candidates for office, different things like that. I think it's an interesting question of, does the populism that Trump is bringing to this, kind of the MAGA movement, does that continue to hold sway, or eventually does it kind of burn itself out because you've cannibalized all the people who are there?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good point. This reminds me of one of the key things that I'm going to be watching for in the Donald Trump administration, especially in 2025. We know that Donald Trump will be inaugurated on January 20th. We're just a few days away from the official start of his new term. We know that the 119th session of Congress is just getting rolling right today. Aaron, J.D. Vance has disappeared. Elon Musk has totally pushed Vice President-elect J.D. Vance off the stage. He is nowhere to be found right now, Aaron. What does that mean for his future? Is J.D. Vance the future of the National Republican Party, or is Elon Musk now that person?
It's going to be really interesting to watch that, and that's a great one that you bring up. I think we just won't know until we get there, but yeah, what does J.D. Vance's role look like in all of this? That's a great question. Yep. Let's shift a little bit to the local side of this here before we wrap up. This year is a municipal year in Utah, which means we're going to have a lot of municipal elections going on around the state, city council, mayors, etc. In particular, we're going to have a new mayor in Provo. So there are some interesting municipal races that we may talk about as we get into the year here. But anything on the local side that you're looking at, Taylor, for 2025?
Yeah, the Utah legislature, specifically when it comes to elections, to voting by mail, to signatures in Utah's dual path nomination process. Those are going to be hot topics. How the legislature responds to the political drama that unfolded surrounding Amendment D, the ballot amendment that was struck and voided by the Utah State Supreme Court last year, how they respond to that with potential increased barriers, requirements for signatures on statewide ballot measures or referenda. All these things are really, I'm watching these carefully during the session, Aaron, but we should also talk about how the Utah legislature is going to potentially cut funding when it comes to higher education in the state of Utah.
Yep, that's going to be a big one.
It's going to be a big one. How do you see that playing out?
There's been a lot of talk about that so far. I think and we have seen even in the last legislative session changes to the DEI process for higher education. We could see some interesting emphasis on the direction that higher ed takes in the state of Utah.
And we have already seen reports coming out from, for example, the University of Utah and other institutions of higher education here in the state, essentially putting department heads on notice of a likely budget cut coming after the 2025 general legislative session. So certainly not necessarily unexpected by higher ed leaders in the state, but exactly how that plays out and what happens will be very interesting to see, Aaron. Wonderful conversation that we've had here on KSL News Radio Inside Sources over the last couple hours. Aaron Ryder, wonderful to be co-hosting with you here today. Listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to stay right here on KSL News Radio. Coming up next, it is Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News.